Hello everybody, it's me again, and this is the fourth video related to that sign-up process we were been working on. If in the last video what I did, we talked about this app view, the app delegate view controller, and how to check the archive data if we stored anything on the server on the device or not. And I was talking about this main view controller, the value of the key or the identifier of the view controller, make sure it is called main view C controller. If you go to the main storyboard, and this is my main view controller, I'll check and make sure it is the same thing that I have in the app delegate. All right, was a problem in the last one. I don't know what happened at the end. All right, so we're ready to go. What we're gonna work on now, we're gonna work on this part, the sign up process. What I'm going to do, I'm gonna validate the process, validate the input, and if they're valid, then we will send the request to the server, and the server will check and give us a code back. If everything is okay and they send us a code, then we'll show this view controller. This view controller will be waiting for an SMS message. You will receive the SMS message, then you will enter the code in here. Okay, we're not going to do this part. We will focus mainly on this part in this video. All right, so let's get started. So open the view controller, which is associated with this view controller, and see what we have here. Okay, I think we had a couple things here. I deleted them by mistake, but it's okay. We had the two text field resign first responders. Okay, txt phone that resign first responder, and txt name resign first responder. This is what we had earlier. Okay. All right. So what do we need to do? We need to check, first of all, we need to validate if the input is correct. If it's correct, then we will call the post service method. So I already done the code. I'm gonna copy it and paste it from here, and just make things easier and quicker, but I'll take my time explaining it. Okay, so here's what you had. So go to that function text field should return, and then we'll copy and paste this code. Okay, this is not done yet, so I'm gonna uncheck it. So what do we do in here? We validate the input. How do you validate it? There's several techniques to do this. One way, you just check for if it's empty or a certain number of digits. Another way is that you use what do you call those? Like patterns. Okay, the word escaped me. I'll come back to it in a minute. Okay. So I define two variables. One is the message that I'm going to show to the user. One to tell me if there's an error or not. So I check. In the first one, we say, is it empty? The name is empty. If it is empty, it says if txt is empty, that means it is. If it is empty, that should say if txt if not equal empty, that means true here, right? Not false. If it is empty, then we put this in the error message, and then we set the flag to true. And the other one, we check here different. We check the number of digits in the text phone. If it is less than 10, then we will display this message again. Now, because we can have an error here and we can have an error here, so what I'm doing here, I'm putting /n at the beginning. That means if there is an error here, go to the next line and display the second error. If there's not, it'll just display an empty line first and then display an error message here. All right. Then we say, after we check everything that we have, we check if there are no errors, then we call, if the error flag is still equal to false, because we started with false, and the only way it gets changed to true is that we found an error, we will call this function, which we will do in a minute. Otherwise, that means we have an error, and I show an alert view controller with the error message. Notice here, I did not put, this is deprecated, but that's fine. You're supposed to use UI alert controller, but that's okay for now, all right? We've done alert controller earlier in previous videos, so you know how to do that, so you can go back to that video. So if I run it now, what should happen if I don't enter anything, if I go here and I click on join, I get these two errors. But if I enter some values here, and I enter some values here, and then I click on join, I got phone number need to be 10-digit long. Okay, so you can add these, and then you go here. We should have like you press here somewhere, and then you click on join. Now it's okay, no errors. So that's the validation. All right, now we need to work on the sending the request to the server. How do we do this? Okay, now we've already talked about JSON and web services in previous videos. This is a little bit different because it's iOS 9 and Swift 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, first, we need to include that function that we called earlier, which is this function is called post request. So I'm going to copy this, command copy, command V, and I'll explain it in details in a minute. Okay, this is my post request. And here, if everything is okay, we uncomment this one. It says call the post request. So I'm calling the post request, which I just copied in here. We'll come back to this in a minute. Because you are using Xcode 7 and later and Swift 2, you need, before you call a Swift JSON request or web service request, you need to add the following to the list. Okay, and the target under the custom targets info, custom iOS target, you see this app transport security. I've done it in the previous video. When I converted JSON to the new Xcode. So basically, you need to add this app transport security setting. In it, allow arbitrary loads, and then you say yes. Okay, I'm going to do it in the info list because it's the same. So you do it here, and I'll show you how it's done in the info list. You don't need it, but it's better. If you want to add it, you can add it here too. So you click on plus. Here you have app transport security settings. Hit enter, expand it, and then you add allow arbitrary loads, and then here you expand it. You put yes. Now you need to do it in two places. I found out. I don't know why. It says a lot. Some people say just in the info, but the only way I got it to work, you need to add it to the two places that I showed you. So you add this here and you add this in there. Okay. Now we're ready. Now let's take a look at that function that I copied in here. First, we got those values, string phone, string name, from the text fields that we have. Second, I have the server, the URL link that I'm sending to the server. Now, because we're doing post request here, not GET request, in the post request, you have two parts. The first part is your actually your page address, and the second part are your parameters. Okay, and here we have two parameters: username equal string phone. Whatever is in this variable will be replaced in here. Here we space between the two, and then we have username equal the string name that's here. This page is expecting those two parameters, and we'll take a look at this page a little later. Just printing this out. Then I have a variable that we use to convert the data that we get from the server. Okay, we convert it to a string so I can access it. We'll talk about this in more detail in a minute. Then I create the URL link, get the session, just like we've done previously. Here are your keys, parameters. I'm just putting these here as an example. You don't need them. Here is the part that maybe a little bit different than the get process, get method. So you create an mutable request with the link. Then we set the request method to post, and then we set the HTTP body to the keys that I've included. And those keys need to be converted, or those parameters need to be converted to UTF-8 string encoding. Otherwise, it might cause you a problem when sending, like if you're having blanks and stuff like that inside inside the string. All right. All right. So that is it as far as a post method. The next part is very similar to what we've done before. We execute the task with request. It has a completion handler. This is a little bit different than iOS 8 and Swift 1.2. So follow this example. We have request, completion handler, data, response, and an error. We have, here's the enclosure for the completion handler. If we have an error, I just print out there's an error with the server. If we don't have an error, I get the response, because you can still get, you might still have an error on the server, but you will get like file not found or something different, right? Those get different status code. And the statuses you get code comes in this object HTTP response. So what we do here, we say if let HTTP response equal response as, which is this response, because it's an optional variable. If it is, we get that response, we convert it to NS HTTP URL response. If it is, if the response code does not equal to 200, it means there's an error on the server. And there are several lists of codes, you can find them on the net, okay? The most common one is 400, and I think it's 500 and 404, file not found, things like those. But 200 mean that it's completed correctly. So if it's not 200, again, we print out an error. Now you can process these differently. You can have, like what we did with the validation, you can put an error code here at the end, or so you don't process anything else. Or you can do like you know, you can do different completion handlers, if you will. Okay. All right. Here, if everything is okay, I get the data. I convert the data string to a string, and we use NSString data. Data is the one that we got, and encoding. Again, we're doing the encoding to UTF-8. If it is not -1, where is this -1 coming from? So if the server doesn't send me back minus, if it doesn't send, if it is -1, then there is an error. If it doesn't send me -1, that means we got a code. Well, how about the rest of it? Well, we trap for the other errors here. So by the time I get here, I know it's either I'm going to get a -1 or a code. So if it's not -1, we say let user data store shared instance user info. What does this do? This will give me the object that is stored in that static singleton class. Remember when we talked about singleton class? This is how you use it. You get the value from the singleton class. You get the object user info. And what do? You set the attributes in that singleton, in the user info, from the text fields and the token that we've received, that is S, which is the code. The next thing we do is that we go to the storyboard. We get the view controller that I want to go to, and then we present the view controller. If there is no error, if there's an error, we print out the error here. If you have an error, you print it out, you process the error. So now let me show you what's going to happen. If we run this, and if I type in 414141, I don't know, this is a special number. And in here, if I click on join, here's my request. Here is my code that I received, the random code from the PHP page. And it's sent me to that confirmation. What should ideally happen, that it send you to this confirmation, and then an SMS will come to your phone, and you will enter the code. You click on done, it will confirm. You write everything to the device. You send the confirmation to the server that this guy is registered, and it move you to the main page. All right, we're not going to do this part today, but we'll do it in the next video. Okay. The last thing I'm going to show you is that let's take a look at that PHP page. Okay, and I already have that page somewhere here. All right, here it is. All right, what do we have in this PHP page? Because this is not the topic of the PHP page, this video, but I'll just show you quickly. We have a status code, value, we have connection, you connect to the server, the status code, if there's a connection failure, we send back to the server -1, else we try to execute the query. I'll check first if they didn't send me the parameter. Here, how you get the parameter, you say post, $post, username with those parameters that I was looking for. If it's empty, that they didn't send me the user phone, then I send back a -1. Otherwise, we'll get the name, the user phone, generate a random number, check in the database if we have that number there or not. If we have it in the database, I send again a -1 code saying duplicate record. Else, we check for, that means that everything is okay. I format a message, say, dear username, your code is the token number that we generate. And this is that part that you will have to do, is that you need to register with a third-party organization that allow you to send SMS messages from your server. I use this SMS bump. All you need from there is that you get a key, and that key, you put that key in that .json, and this is the format of your message. So it's just a URL request from PHP, so file get content. You execute this will send a message with the token that I'm looking for, that code, and close the connection. Okay, so that is it. Now, I didn't put that in here because you will be looking at my keys. Okay, but that's how it works. All right, so I'll close the PHP page, and here is my this is the sign up video. Okay, that is all for this video. I know sometimes that if I don't type it with you, it might be harder to follow, but I'll promise to post this on the net when we're done, okay? Because to type it would take a long time, and then potential of errors and things like that, and then you'll probably get bored and then don't finish it, okay? But at least in YouTube, you can pause it and follow the steps, okay? I'll see you in the next video. Let me stop this here.